Today, we are in a new era that we have to wrap our minds around. And that era is a public safety crisis, the likes of which we have never seen in this country.
The opinions of the guests and host are their own and do not represent the opinions of Ironclad, the Border Patrol, or the Department of Homeland Security.
We cut through the partisan talking points. We're not interested in perpetuating fear. We're interested in seeking truth, hearing what's really going on America's Borderland. Welcome to Borderland, an Ironclad original. Today our guest is Jaeson Jones. We bring him back to kind of have him catch us up on what's going on the border and what he's been reporting on. This gentleman is an expert at what he does. You're going to love this interview. Go check it out. Welcome back, Jaeson, to the Borderland podcast. It's always great to have you. So much has happened since the last time you were here. There's 4 major topics I kind of want to talk about. I'm just going to hit them real quick and then we'll get to them. But Sinaloa cartel war, the New Mexico president, Tren de Aragua, the takeover, right, and the new Asylum crackdown. So those are the 4 areas I would love to talk about, but as well as if there's anything else that you want to bring to the table, you know you're more than welcome to. How you been?
It's good, buddy. Great to be with you. And listen, my sincere congratulations to all you guys are doing, man. You're doing great work illuminating what's happening out there to the American people, and they need it because our government hadn't been telling them, and I truly mean that. Hats off to you guys.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. And you do the same. Everything you guys put out, everything you do, it's needed in this world, especially now. And so we just appreciate you, and thank you for being on the show with us today.
No, it's great to be here, man, always.
So talk to me, since last time, all the Sinaloa stuff happened with Mayo and everything else. We had an investigative journalist that was embedded into Mexico talking about a lot of the killings that are happening because of it. From your perspective, from your experience, what have you heard about it and what's going on?
They are at war. And what all of your viewers need to understand, this war is different from the others. You know, look, when the rats battle, as they call them, right, at the lower levels, Vince, a great example of that is what you've been seeing in Sonora, Caborca. You know, those battles have been going on for years, but those are the lower ranking rats, as the bosses would say it. What has happened now that is different, that everybody needs to understand, is that this war is now at the highest levels, Flaco, the son of El Mayo, has attacked the Chapitos, Ivan, and he wants him dead. And he is very strong right now because what Ivan has done is, look, at the end of the day, he betrayed a lot of people. He's lost the support of the Salazar family. Ivan apparently has the backing of Beltran Leyva's. You know, Chapo Isidro is extremely strong. That guy, let me tell you, if everybody watching right now, you need to be paying attention to what Chapo Isidro does and what El Russo does. But he commands an army. So Ivan has been in trouble. And as a result of that, because he has lost the support, he's had to unite with Cartel Jalisco New Generation. You know, the numbers, don't listen to any numbers you hear coming out of Mexico about the number of dead. They're going to be well over 150. All these reports about that's what it is. Listen, that's nothing, man. This war will last a little while. But I think at the end of the day, to be quite frank, Ivan's in real trouble. The Chapitos are in trouble. I suspect he's already been talking with the U.S. government about making a deal. If he hadn't, I'd be surprised. But at the end of the day, he's been forced to unite with CJNG. And we saw that one coming. That's not going to surprise anybody that's really paying attention to this.
Yeah, and CJNG has been making headway with social media, with a lot of what they do, their tactics. We've done interviews with several people to talk about how they've kind of become the cool cartel and how they manage social media and how they influence the younger generations, but also the dangers of having them at the helm, them being able to start now gaining more territory because of this war that's going on internally. Is that correct?
Well said. Absolutely. And look, Ivan, he had to do something. He was losing. And so, you know, this is a relationship made with the devil, though, right? Yeah. How long will that last, right? This is the underworld, man. And this is the top tier of the underworld. So the key now is, what are the secondary and third impacts to the United States? And I said it from the get-go. I was meeting with legislators in Arizona. I said, get ready. This war that kicked off, I remember correctly, it was September 9th. I was there like the 10th, sitting down privately, meeting with legislators in Arizona about what they need to do. Had nothing to do with that. It had to do with laws to pass. And I said, get ready. You are about to start seeing what we were seeing in Texas when the Zetas were battling the Gulf. And it's already started. You know, we had the 4 RPGs seized right there just by the Ajo station. You've had massive waves of violence. And as they begin to lose, too, another thing that everyone needs to understand is when there is a loser, they will flee. And they will flee to the United States because this is sanctuary. I mean, when the Rojos killed Metro Tres, I was working that, and we were stunned in one night. We had between 30 and 40 high-level operatives within the Rojos fleeing into the United States. And then we had kidnappings as well, taking people back into Mexico to be killed who owed money, because war is expensive. And everyone needs to understand that. And so if you have family members that owe money to these drug traffickers and you live along the southern border with the United States, they will pick you up, take you into Mexico, and make you pay. We've seen that in the past. That's of course going to happen here. But what we don't know, Vince, is that this is the big cartel, man. I mean, this is the big one. This is a global problem. That's not just a Mexico alone. So what will happen in the long run? We will see things here we never saw previously. And look, the U.S. intelligence agency should be briefing the American people. The Mexican government should be talking more about this. And look, it is what it is. I mean, it's just the state of lack of leadership we have within the Homeland Security enterprise I'm talking about here. DHS, all of them, the federal leadership should be talking to the American people about this, because this has a lot of ties into the U.S., especially when it comes to fentanyl coming into the country. Again, war is expensive, so they're going to have to send more product, doubling down. And look at the seizures, by the way. Let me validate that a little bit. Have you been paying attention to the seizures in Arizona? Yeah. My God. I mean, they're averaging 1 to 2 million fentanyl pill seizures in just a few days of, 1 or 2, 3 seizures now. Why? It's very simple to the folks watching, because war is expensive. The problem is nobody's telling the American people, Vince.
Yeah.
It's beyond me, man.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have you here, to hopefully use this platform to tell the world. Let me ask you something. Well, we had Ed Calderon on the show recently, and you know who he is.
Yeah, great guy, doing great work.
Absolutely. And he had his own personal opinion that El Maya was potentially connected to our own CIA. And just curious if you've heard any kind of word of that, or is there any kind of validity behind that?
Never heard anything to that. And I worked closely with the CIA when I was running operations in Texas, along with the Defense Intelligence Agency. Great people. I highly, highly doubt that. I'm going to be very frank with you. Awesome. Highly doubt that. Yeah, highly doubt that. These are people who would do anything they could to be able to absolutely stop the violence occurring in Mexico and the number of deaths happening in the United States. From all the field operatives I worked with, they were doing everything they could, Vince. The only discussions they may have been having with him was trying to get him here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Other than that, oh no, man, he's killed way too many people over the years.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. New York has a new president. Thoughts on?
Yeah.
Was there going to be any change, any kind of ideas that are actually going to slow this traffic down, or is it going to still be hugs, not bullets?
Still going to be hugs, not bullets, with a lot of new rhetoric. You saw last month, she put out her new security strategy for the country of Mexico. Is basically based on 4 major pillars. Those 4 pillars are better intelligence collection, better collaboration amongst National Guard and local and federal law enforcement in Mexico. And then the third one had to do with really getting to the social economical issues in Mexico that are causing the extreme violence. And then the fourth one had to do with really trying to support those communities hit hardest by the violence. Well, what the shit does any of that mean? It means nothing to the viewer but a bunch of noise. Listen, these people are training with Middle East terrorist organizations. They are training with former special forces. They leverage military-grade weapons of first, second, third, and fourth generation armored vehicles. They leverage surface-to-air missiles, RPGs, AT-4s, 50 caliber belt-fed machine guns. The list goes on, Vince. And, all the talk in the world about wanting to stop this that way, it's never going to work. And all anyone has to do is sit down with these young sicarios and the leadership within these cartels, even at the mid-level, and they will just laugh at that. So look, there's a lot of endless talk going on. The best thing we really do have going for us, though, and I do mean this, is that we have a new government in Mexico with no background, no baggage, right? We are on the verge of either way, whether President Trump or President Kamala Harris, having a new regime in the United States. with no baggage in the background. Now, this is a very unique time. Remember, they have 6-year runs down there for president. We have 4, back-to-back 8. So almost within a matter of a few months, they're coming together. This is fantastic. We have the ability to start from the ground, build entire new pipelines of intelligence sharing like we had historically, that has absolutely been eliminated by the AMLO administration in Mexico. All the pipelines, Vince, that we had where we were sharing with the bunker down in Mexico City or with SAMAR, which are the Mexican Marines, all of that has been decimated. Your viewers need to know that. And that's why, the other thing that's happened too is that the violence that we were really fighting along the frontera or the border region in the north back then, that was really limited to certain areas. And then, the Zetas, they went off and battled, other cartels across Mexico, but nothing, and I truly mean this, nothing like what we see in Mexico today. So they are truly battling. I monitor these battles every day on social media, what the current tripwires are, the car bomb that just went off down there, that was one of the largest one we've ever seen. And I shake my head. They are losing their country. They are truly losing it now. And it's time to really be open and honest and transparent with the Mexican people, the American people, and do all we can to help save lives. Because I can tell you, as somebody that knows these cartels very well, they won't stop. They can't. They're at war. And they don't care about us, and they don't care about the Mexican government. What they fear are their rivals, as you've heard me say in the past many, many times. And so they're going to keep battling. They're going to keep making worse and more powerful strains of fentanyl mixed with xylazine, netazine, as we're already seeing, parafentanyl, serafentanyl, and the list goes on because of these wars. And so we've got to stop them. We've got to.
Man, it's a crazy time. So recently there's been some reports about concerns that Hamas has been working with cartels. From your perspective and your professionalism, is there any truth to that? Have you heard any kind of intel on that?
Yes, I can 100% validate it. As a matter of fact, if you'll pull the video, you can actually run it on this podcast. I went down and interviewed one of guys, really a legend in Israel. I was just there last month. And I spent 10 days in Israel, was up on the Lebanon border. But my whole reason for going down there was to interview a former colonel who's still very close to the higher echelon and has been reactivated. He is the mastermind, Colonel Tirza, who built the wall around Israel. And he admitted straight out that they have known for the last 5 years that Hamas has been working with the Tijuana cartel, which, for those of you that might know this, that's mostly CJNG today, Cartel Jalisco New Generation. And they've been digging tunnels into San Diego and helping really with the trade craft of how to do that, digging in those sandy areas. They've known about this for 5 years. So that is 100%, and I put that out, by the way, on national news with that interview, 100%. That's literally why I went to Israel.
That's crazy. Yeah, and, people talk about trying to secure borders. It has been hard for the agencies to identify some of these tunnels. I mean, these tunnels could be going on for years before anyone even detects them. There's nothing that we have in our arsenal, any kind of technology that's been able to help with this situation.
No, it's true. It's true. Not only that, the best source you have there is human intelligence to help break those because they are so deep. And look, at the end of the day, the Sinaloans, they've been at this game a long time, digging tunnels into our country, but also look at the tunnels that were dug, to get Chapo out of prison. Look at all the tunnels he had under his safe houses. So, they've got a long history of building incredible tunnels to move, a lot of drugs into this country and a lot of people.
Hey guys, it's your boy Rocco. I wanted to share with you guys a new fitness app that I've been using called MTNTOUGH. If you're serious about pushing your limits and building your mental toughness, you gotta go check out MTNTOUGH. This isn't your average fitness app. It's built for those who never back down from a challenge. MTNTOUGH started by training backcountry hunters for multi-day, high elevation, rugged terrain, and the ability to pack an elk in mountains. The training translated so well to the tactical application that many special operations, military, first responders, and law enforcement officers use the app today. You can see on their YouTube channel that they've been sharing their knowledge and training with guys like the 75th Ranger Regiment, which I was also a part of. This app allows you to train wherever you are with minimal equipment requirements. So whether you're in the gym, outdoors, at home, you can access top-tier workouts that fit your goals and lifestyle. In other words, you have no excuse. I have gone through my phases of my workouts, trying to get big, trying to get better, trying to get faster, trying to get this, and currently, this is the app I'm using. I want to be more functional in the field while out there with the Border Patrol filming what happens day in and day out on the borders. Download Mountain Tough app today and use the promo code Borderland to get a 14-day free trial and 1 month free. That's 6 weeks of Mountain Tough at no cost. Go get them. Well, we talk about the southern border so often, but we don't mention the northern border. Is there something of concern in the northern border in your recent years of hearing anything that's happening?
You know, the Canadian government is now finally cracking down a little bit. They opened, what happened was a few years back, they had their visa requirements waived for Mexican citizens. And what that brought was a whole lot of flights over the United States into Canada. And then from there, people coming south. With that came a lot of fentanyl. Now they've re-invoked that visa. That's a good thing, because now that's going to limit a lot of these people that have been flying over the United States, which caused us to have so much fentanyl on the northern border region coming south. So that will help us tremendously. Outside that, I am 100% focused on Mexico and what's happening down there. They're also trying to limit a lot of the countries who have been coming into Canada when it comes to Middle East terrorist organizations being able to penetrate that northern border. But look, at the end of the day, I mean, we've opened up our borders, Vince, as you know better than anyone, man. You've been down there fighting it. I've been seeing you. And you know, at the end of the day, it's just been wave after wave of people coming. And that's not slowing down, even though that's what everyone's been told.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that new Asylum crackdown. Is that having any effect? Is it working?
It is. I mean, look, at the end of the day, what they're doing is leveraging the CBP-1 app, right? And to move people into the United States through the ports of entry and to fly them into the country. And so they're saying that the numbers are dropping at the southwest border between the ports of entry, and that's not a lie, but it's a half truth. They're not talking about how they're crossing on the ports of entry, leveraging the CBP-1 app. The other thing that's not talked about publicly is what's taking place in Chiapas, and the agreement that was made with the United States government last year in December with the Mexican government to begin holding tens of thousands of people in the state of Chiapas to try to conduct what we call metering, so that only so many people per day cross at that southern border, right? And the numbers have averaged about 1,500 to 2,500 per day. That's exactly where the U.S. administration wanted it. We have a problem, though, now. And that is that all these people have been backed up into Mexico. And if anyone is watching right now, don't take my word for it. There's a whole lot of great reporting by independent media. Todd Bensman with the Center of Immigration Studies has done some great work down there in Chiapas as well. They've got over 150,000 people. Now, that's just a base number I can give you, over 150,000 people. So now imagine what has been taking place here lately, and what has really concerned me is that I have been saying all eyes should be on Eagle Pass, Texas, and El Paso, Texas, because we've been getting overrun with large numbers of unaccompanied alien children, along with special interest aliens. Those are people who come, known as SIAs. Those are people who come from a country with a terrorism nexus. Now, why there? Why now? Well, they've been held up in the state of Chiapas for so long. We know that they're now paying smugglers. SIAs can pay to get around, and the families can pay for children to get up here. We don't yet know, are these children being trafficked like we've seen in other cases? I'm sure they are to some degree, but I don't have the hard data to validate that. But we've seen clusters of them, Vince, in Eagle Pass. Now, the overflow is going to be El Paso. El Paso right now is already preparing. But as the resources are diminished in Chiapas, people are moving out of there, and the Mexican government's widening that ban to the surrounding states. So what they're doing is they're coming out of Chiapas, they go into Mexico City, then they get to Guanajuato, they jump on La Bestia, the train network, and then they ride that train all the way up and then cross into Eagle Pass, Texas. That has really bothered me because there has been such an extensive network of this that now Cartel del Noreste, known as CDN, formerly the Los Zetas, I spent years battling them, are now even putting those wristbands on men, women, and children. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
And we just saw that in the last few weeks. So to me, that is a significant tripwire within the U.S. intelligence agencies that now here they come, that they as well are preparing on the Piedras Negras side to prepare for a massive influx of people because they know what's coming. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying it to everyone right now. All eyes should be on Eagle Pass and El Paso. And if let's just say President Trump wins, well, these agreements that were made with the Biden-Harris administration, man, they're all off, brother.
Yep.
So now we could truly see the Mexican government say, hey, get them out of here. And you couldn't blame them for a minute, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't blame them because they're down there causing all kinds of issues for them and their citizens. And then we truly see a wave hit us, the likes of which we've never seen. That is a major concern for me right now that I can tell you for everyone watching.
Yeah,
that we're monitoring very closely.
I've seen some videos of some independent reporters who are out there, a caravan of hundreds of thousands coming from the South. And I believe it's all because of that same thought of who's going to be elected as president is going to have the biggest. And from what my experience is, there's usually two different trains of thought. It's like get in now or get ready to be able to get in. And it's like they just so whatever the answer is, who knows, but they're still staging and getting ready for that.
Well said, man. Perception drives migration. If they all believe Trump's going to shut the border down like he did before, they are coming now. So that means November 6th to January, get ready.
Yeah.
We're going to be on that border a lot. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I'll be there.
And I also think, too, that there's another part of this that we could see it either or. Let's say Kamala wins, right? We could still see it because it's a new administration to some degree. So we're in some in environments right now where as a nation, we have truly never been. And all you have to do is look to Mexico to see what's coming here.
Yeah, and the cartels will use that. I remember during the transition of Title 42, you had some people that were trying to get in now, and then some people were waiting for the transition to go back to the Title 8 for them to come across because they were being told different stories, and the cartel was using that. And so it's a crazy time.
It really is. But, I worry about these things, man, because we've had a lot of unaccompanied children. I always say it, Vince, of all the things that bother me on the border, specifically not the cartels, but the border, it is stash house operations and unaccompanied children. They bother me the most because, like today, I've been breaking a story. You may have seen it. Great work by Border Patrol down in RGV there in the Fort Brown station near Brownsville, Texas, rescued those 4 unaccompanied children. Did you see that?
I didn't see that yet, no.
Man, great work by these guys because the cliffs there, as you know, they're very huge cliffs on the side. So they were paid by this smuggler. Children were handed over to the smuggler, put on a makeshift raft, abandoned. Just left them, little bitty ones too, Vince.
Oh my goodness.
And these agents, no doubt, rescued these young kiddos. No doubt. I was stationed in Brownsville back in 2004 as an undercover narcotics agent. And I can tell you, I know that area very well. They've been abandoning unaccompanied children down there, even when I was down there back then. So
why is there
great job?
Why is there such a big number of unaccompanied minors? Is that human smuggling, or is it families that are just trying to get their kids into America, knowing that we have a soft spot for that, which we do, rightfully so? But why is the number so high? Well said.
I've been getting it out all day. We've had since August of 21, anybody can go to the data, don't take my word for it, over 500,000 unaccompanied children. These numbers to me, Vince, are just stunning. You talk about these young kids and what's happening to them down there. I think it's everything. It's not just one. In the old days, it was human smuggling. I hand my child off to these smugglers. They're going to cross them into the U.S. Once they get them here, we pick them up. We have a family member on this side, pick them up. That thing's over, right? That's the negotiation. That's a smuggling operation. Today, though, with this debt bondage, I can't imagine what we're about to find in our country over the next few years. I mean, we're going to have a wave of human trafficking, the likes of which we have never seen. And we're going to be finding these children all over the nation in the hands of gang members and everything else. And, the government knows it. They're not going to be able to hide this forever. The intel reports are all going to come out. The transparency has to happen with the American people on this. It has to.
How about TDA, Tren de Aragua? How have they been able to infiltrate or come into America so high north that they're taking over major little areas? I just feel like I haven't seen such an influx of any kind of gang or anything as fast as I've seen TDA move.
I think that's well said, and I mean that. You know, I had never even heard of them, and I'd been in the game for a very long time working in Mexico. I never even heard of them. And in December of 22, you may remember we had all those people in El Paso, Vince, coming in, just families like crazy. And I was being told by agents out there, "Hey, man, be careful. These Tren de Aragua guys are running the piso on everybody. They're collecting the tax on everyone. They're running all the people living in the street." I didn't even know what they were. And now look at how many states they're in. Now we know DHS has admitted publicly they're in over 15 states across the country, with another 8 about to come online where they believe there's a light presence. So you're right. Like a virus, they have spread. But now what's the why to it? The why to it is very, very important. We know that they are backed by state actors, which is obviously Venezuela, right? And the Maduro regime. We know they're linked to the cartels of the Suns. And we also know that their leadership has now fled to, last we know, Colombia, where they're running operations. So now you overlay that with Cartel Jalisco New Generation working with them in Ecuador. So those relationships and those ties have now been forged. So where I'm going with that is that they have the ability very rapidly and very quickly, because of these associations and because of their background, to be a massive tier 1 threat to the United States and to the public safety of the American people. But with that said, right now they are still very much in the low-hanging fruit category, because the crimes they're committing, while very heinous, man. I mean, you saw what they did to Jocelyn Nungare, 12 years of age, in Houston, Texas. Brutal, brutal crime. And, you know, we could talk about that, and the list goes on with them. They still don't have the strong ties here right now. They don't have the legs. They're finding their way between Sereno Street Gang, between MS-13, between MA, Mexican Mafia, down in San Antonio, where we've been seeing patches of them. So if we were to act, and what I truly mean here is we, U.S. law enforcement at local, state, and federal levels across this country, and absolutely start doing bust outs right now, we can fix this. Because those roots have not been firmly planted, and they're hated by the other U.S.-based street gangs and the U.S. government, right? But we've got to have operations against them. You hardly hear anything from the federal agencies of daily bust. I mean, every day we should be hearing from the DEA administrator, the FBI director, HSI, what they're doing to go after them. Great work by the U.S. Marshals today, knocking down 350 plus, whatever. We hear nothing.
Yeah.
Now, we did hear from the governor of Texas, and I give him a lot of credit, where he designated Tren de Aragua as a tier 1 gang.
Yep.
We saw where he also called them a foreign terrorist organization. And then what that did, that so everyone understands, and this is why I get so frustrated when I talk about this gang, because this is fixable. They then operated and completely activated the 9 different anti-gang centers across the Texas. And so what this means for everybody watching is that's the intelligence collection. So the governor, by designating them and making them a tier 1 gang, is saying to all state law enforcement and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement in Texas, this is priority 1 for you. Everything and anything you have on them, we want to know about it. We want to know about it right now, because these anti-gang centers are going to hunt them down like the dogs they are. The problem is you don't hear this from the federal government. So they are spreading rapidly exactly what you said. And we should have been ahead of this. Law enforcement has failed tremendously. And just like MS-13 was crossing in 2004 when I was in Brownsville, running from the Gulf Cartel because they were slaughtering them, going up the East Coast, we're about to do the same thing and not do what needs to be done to stop them before they truly get seated here in the U.S.
You know, you're right. I've seen very little law enforcement action against them. I live here in the DFW area and heard about, an apartment kind of getting taken over. A couple other law enforcement were validating that, but then just recently, 4 of them went into a house of an elderly lady really close to where I live, and they attacked her. And to hear that, it almost sounds like no one's taking action and directly just like picking these dudes up, like going after them, heavy intel, gather whatever you have to, but like start snatching these dudes up and taking them to jail, because that's what I think has to happen. But then you see these videos of them taking over hotels or apartment buildings. It's bizarre to me to see it even get that far.
I think that's well said. And, I'm familiar with the case you're talking about. They even threatened to cut that woman's fingers off if she didn't hand over all her jewelry in Dallas. I covered that.
Yeah.
This is an example of the hyperviolence that they're capable of. And you would think that we would be hearing from leaders within the Homeland Security enterprise all across this country how they are uniting and that Tren de Aragua is a major priority for them, and then start these bust outs. But I will tell you, man, the lack of leadership, I have never experienced it in my entire law enforcement career, what we're seeing, especially, and I don't care if this hurts feelings, it is what it is within the federal law enforcement agencies. They've got to get to work to get after this gang and many, many others.
Why do you feel that is?
I'm sure it's a totality of, look, the current administration, they're not real aggressive on things when it comes to enforcement operations. And so, look, it's easier to do nothing, Vince, get my retirement check and move on. But unfortunately, I'm just to be clear, I am 100% against that. I have been the guy that goes to your door, knocks on your door, and tells you that the person you love the most in the world is never coming home. I have watched these people fall apart in front of me. And if you want to be humbled in your life, watch these mothers and fathers just dissolve in front of you when you tell them. It is something that most federal agencies don't have to do day in, day out, but state and local do. And it matters, man. What's happening to these families matter. And it's exactly why I went public to designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, because I didn't want what was happening there coming here. And look, we're already too late. Look at the amount of deaths from fentanyl and every other type of drug, never mind the trade craft that now walks among us.
Yeah, it's I can't help but continue to say how just crazy it is and how frustrating it is to watch. I'm still I do my part, but I wish I could do more, and I wish I was able to be into the federal law enforcement side of things again and attack it. But I feel like the position I'm in now, at least, I believe, still make an impact. But it's hard to watch and just sit here and do journalism side of things and interviews and not be able to get engaged on this subject.
So we're so excited to launch this new piece for the Navy SEAL Foundation. We're titling it I Am. This piece plays out all the aspects that go unseen inside of the life of a team guy, the life of a family member. Everything we do for the foundation, we want it to do justice to the cause and for the community. So we want authenticity and we want it to make a difference. So we hope you get that from this. We're so excited to launch it.
My next question, the foreign...
Hey, real quick, I just want to tell you, I know the feeling well, brother. I know the feeling. I think that's why my hair is falling out and it's as curly as it is lately.
It's hard to sit back and not,
it's hard.
Not be kicking in doors and attacking.
Well said, man. Well said. When you know, too, how easy so much of this is. Some of this is just perception. One thing I learned working very closely with Commissioner Ray Kelly of the New York City Police Department, because as we had terrorists crossing our southern border, I was commanding the Texas Rangers Cross-Border Operations Center, and we were learning the FBI. We'd share information with the FBI. They wouldn't give it to New York. So we built those relationships around them. And one thing that I learned working with them as closely as we did is that one thing Commissioner Kelly did very, very well is he created a perception that they were doing different things. And you would be amazed that perception alone will drive these criminals to go other places. It's why you see a lot of the rhetoric that you do. And I have no problem calling it that from the state of Texas. Calling out Tren de Aragua, calling out the border issues. Go somewhere else. We don't care where you go, but don't come to Texas.
Yeah.
That is important. These criminals need to hear, if you're going to harm our citizens, we're going to bring the full weight of Texas law enforcement or U.S. law enforcement for you. And we don't care where you hide. We're bringing the best of the best for you. And that matters, man. It matters. And instead, what are we portraying? Well, there's no prosecutions anymore. No one's getting prosecuted. You can cross that southern border. People will come up. Nobody cares. USC 1325. It doesn't matter. I've never seen it like this. So this is why we have the level of transnational crime just steadily increasing the way we do. But for the folks watching, as depressing as we probably sound, don't let anybody tell you that this isn't fixable. The question, though, is to what degree of damage to our fellow citizens is going to happen before we get this shit fixed.
Yeah. I mean, I love that, raising kids in this environments, you try and safeguard them from the knowledge of what's happening outside of their bubble, right? You try and keep them in the innocence of their bubble. But as I have 15-year-olds, I try and teach them the best, like, here's the truth. And you almost have to remove a little bit of innocence of the children so they can be more mentally prepared for the reality of life that they're going to be facing, and they're currently facing in their own schools. There's high school kids that are runners all throughout El Paso for the cartel nowadays. Then they and they recruit other kids because they're making good money. It's a cool thing to do, and a lot of the kids are communicating with each other. I have family out there and who are telling me their kids are saying that almost all the boys are involved with some kind of cartel as runners because they make good money. And those are the kind of thoughts that I need to tell my 15-year-old son, like, you better wake up, boy. Don't be taking any kind of medication from nobody, and you better stay out of trouble, because that innocence is gone now. The reality is set in, and they're going after our teenagers nowadays.
That's well said. We've seen it in South Texas for many, many years. You're absolutely right. And, you know, we should never have been allowing this. Our government should have been a lot more, a lot stronger, but also a lot more transparent to communicate it. One of the things that I've been really aggressive on is the failure of law enforcement to illuminate what's been happening. You know, we've hid behind this law enforcement sensitive stuff, Vince, as you know better than anybody, right? I'm sorry, you can't talk about it's law enforcement sensitive. Well, it's law enforcement. Where does that get you? What, do you know a secret that nobody else knows? Sure, there are some cases you can't talk about because you're going to prosecute an officer-involved shooting, and you don't want to, you know, give up a case when it comes to, you know, somebody who lost a family member. Of course, no doubt about that. But when we're talking about overall trends that can impact the American people, this is a no-brainer. This should have been communicated decades ago. Hell, it's why I went public, because I realized to the sheer scope, law enforcement had failed, and I was just another cog in the wheel. We had to do differently. We had to communicate better. It's our own fault. That's the real truth of it when it comes to the Homeland Security enterprise. And I sure hope in the coming future that all changes, because we've got to get much better at this so we can attack this crime that's impacting. And I'll say it all the time. I don't know if you've heard me lately, but it's not about national security anymore. We opened up the borders, Vince, to the world and the world's problems. Today, we are in a new era that we have to wrap our minds around. And that era is a public safety crisis, the likes of which we have never seen in this country.
It's crazy to hear, it's crazy to think, but I you know, you're the expert in this space, and I believe you're right. As much as it's a hard pill to swallow. You know, it's funny how when you say we kept so much information to ourselves and we didn't show the public, and now we have social media that's giving us an opportunity to have a voice. And a lot of the law enforcement agencies, a lot of these agencies weren't using that in a way that they should have, so they can build rapport, so they can humanize their own badges, so they can show the community that what they're doing to keep the community safe. Instead, they allow the media and everyone else to demonize them, to destroy their character, to destroy their reputation just by false narratives. And that's the crazy thing that we have to now gain control of. Guys like you, me, who have been in both places, who are now doing the journalism side of it, we have to, in a way, not even just tell, but show. Let me show you the truth so you can now get led down this path instead of hearing what everyone else is telling you about it. Different agencies like the Border Patrol, different agencies like law enforcement, you know, they've been demonized for way too long now, and we have to actually start showing the truth of the things that we do, these heroic things that these agencies do day in and day out to protect our people.
Man, hats off to you. I mean that too. That's why I embed with law enforcement, and I see you doing the same thing. And man, that is the win-win, because it puts to bed the lies that have been told about these incredible people who really every day just want to go out and help people. That's why you put that badge on and you make no money for an entire career, right? Let's be real open and honest. And then you work yourself into the ground. But the lawyers got involved and destroyed law enforcement in this country. And then, of course, like any organization, you always have some bad actors that do stupid things, and we have those in every agency. But I have always said, Vince, and I mean this, that if you put body cams on every Border Patrol agent, and the rescues, like we talked about with those 4 children just day before yesterday that I was getting out all day, if Americans saw that every day, they would think Border Patrol is one of the finest law enforcement agencies in the nation, because they don't get to see it. My God, I mean, you know, until recently, until you started doing embeds like you're doing, man, people had no idea to what degree these people are rescuing people every single day. There are so many great people trying to do great work to save lives every day. And if their leadership wouldn't just operate the way they did in 1980 and get it out and illuminate it to the American, man, people will love law enforcement again.
Yeah.
But, we're going to have to change laws as well at the same time, because the truth is we've got a lot of laws that regulate Americans versus protect them. And I'm a firm believer lawmen's job are to protect our fellow citizens, not regulate them. I'm totally in,
Absolutely. So I want to circle back on the Hamas. I haven't heard much about this. I would love to know more about any other intel you have with Hamas potentially already coming into America, have been in America, or plans on, using the southern border and essentially the situation we have now as a means of entry into this country and potentially being a terrorist threat to this country.
Well, I can't give you much more specifically to Hamas because we don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
But I can tell you without doubt, I have made the connection that they have been working directly with the Tijuana Cartel and Cartel Jalisco New Generation, made that direct connection without any hesitation, and have been for the last 5 years. But what we all know now is that as we've opened up our borders, these long-haul smugglers have been bringing in Middle East terrorist organizations for years now. Look at the numbers alone. In 2023, Border Patrol was processing so many so fast, we now learned that they let 99 people on the FBI's terrorism watch list into the country and then had to go out and round them up. Now think of that. And we also know that they encountered 169 during that same year. So look, the reason that's important for the folks that are listening right now is that in the old days, when I go back to the Obama administration and the Trump administration, I can remember that under Obama in 1 year, I think his worst year, he had 6 or 8. Think of that.
Yeah.
6 or 8 people on the FBI's terrorism watch list for the entire year. And now look at the numbers you and I are talking about. We're in a whole new world. And then you overlay all of that now, right? With the FBI's failed uniform crime reporting system and the failed national incident-based reporting system. This is why transnational crime has been allowed to seep in, because for the folks watching, those systems didn't capture enough data on transnational crime. UCR is the real core failure behind us. Now, what do? We blame it on the left or we blame it on the right? But at the end of the day, the reporting mechanism, it captured murder, manslaughter, robbery, motor vehicle theft, sexual assault, aggravated sexual assault, 8 index crimes. But think of everything we have talked about, from gangs, cartels, Middle East terrorist organizations coming into the country, all of the extortions and the drug trafficking, the human smuggling, human trafficking. This has allowed a whole new emergence of a crime era, a public safety era that we are now in, the likes of which we've never seen. And so we've got to make some hard changes within the federal law enforcement organizations in the coming decade to prepare for the new threat streams that we are in. And I will tell everybody, and I mean this, you are going to see new law enforcement agencies at the federal level. We need to get rid of some old ones too, and to be quite frank, but we've got to address the new threats that truly threat the American people and the public safety of this country.
I 100% agree. Thank you for that. Last real big question after that, it's just open platform really. But do you think either political party has a more clear stance on border security? If so, what specific measures do they advocate for? Because I know a little bit of kind of Trump's, not so much about Harris's, but which one of those would you say have been more defined on their, I guess, policies?
Yeah, well, I think without question, and I'm a big believer in the data, not perceptions, not feelings. If you go back and you look at the data under President Trump, it was very clear that the Remain in Mexico policy and the perception that if you come to the United States, you're going to be deported, kept the numbers dropping at some of the lowest numbers we've ever seen. Now, that's a fact, right? The data's there. It's very clear. What is going to be interesting now, though, that we have to be very open and honest about it, that is that we're in a new world. And that new world is that those people, as we opened up that world to the whole world's problems, it now walks among us here domestically. So what they're going to do domestically is going to be very interesting. Now, I know Tom Homan personally. When he says he's going to conduct the largest mass deportation in American history, make no doubt that is going to happen. and it is going to take place. Where I am very concerned and very interested is, what are we going to do with Mexico? How are we going to collaborate with the Mexican government to get to the nucleus of it all? As we talk about Tren de Aragua, as we talk about U.S.-based street gangs who collaborate with the cartels, the Halcon network that controls our southern border, or the alien smuggling organizations, at the core, at the end of the day, and I can say long-haul smugglers and Middle East terrorist organizations, they are collaborating with the cartels. That is the nucleus. And we have to take them on. And I hope that the relationship with the new administration forges a new path forward for both the Mexican citizens, for the U.S. citizens, and to start righting the wrongs for so many families on both sides of this border and around the world that these cartels have caused. Because, Vince, I'm going to tell you, and I mean this, they're not going to stop. They can't stop. If anyone would sit down and talk to these young sicarios, they will tell you this. We have to go after them. And I'm a firm believer that we can do this working with the Mexican government. The Mexican government has the ability to do it. They just need the intel. And those admirals down there within the Mexican Marines and a few within Sedena, those generals, they can get it done. We just have to have the relationships fostered and the ability to share intelligence and then go crush the bastards for what they've done to hurt so many people. And I truly mean that. We've got to get tough. We have opened this border to a series of threats this country has never experienced that now walks amongst our citizens.
Yeah, I really appreciate your insight on that. This is, it's unprecedented what we're dealing with right now. And, I don't care. I mean, whoever gets elected, I hope that they start to make answers that stop this and fix this issue, because you and I know how bad this is currently and how bad it can get, or how bad it will get because of what's happened in the past few years. And so my biggest fear is just like, once this election is done, who's going to make the changes that are going to make this a better situation, fix some of these old immigration policies that we need to address, just layers and layers of stuff that just need to be hit and focused on finally.
We need strong leadership. We really do. And we need tough men who are willing to do tough things and get it done and fix this. We have to. Look, we have no choice, man. I meet with these families, Vince, all over the country. Just this week, I was in Detroit. I speak on the cartels all over the nation, trying to get families to understand what's taking place. And I had a mom and a dad come up to me. They had lost their 19-year-old son to a cloned fentanyl pill. He was not a drug addict. He thought he was taking an Adderall pill. And I have my arm around this mom. I just finished my speech. She's holding up this huge sign of her son. I got my other arm around this dad, and they're taking our picture. And it hits me, man. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, we've known where all of the stash houses are. Well, just about all of them. We've known where all the bosses have lived within the Sinaloa cartel who produced this fentanyl. We have known where the leadership have been living, because they haven't had to move in decades, many of them. And we can't get people to do their job. It hits you like a brick. I've been at this for 8 years, Vince. I can't believe it. I mean, I say this in my speeches, 8 years. How is it that we are where we are? And for 8 years, we couldn't get our federal government to designate these cartels as terrorists, to give us the authorities we need, not to go to war, but to be able to truly go after their assets, to go after the money you hear about, to remove them from our country rapidly, to limit their mobility globally, to truly hunt the network and not just the capos. How hard is this? And yet here we are 8 years later, and I am still seeing these families almost every week. I travel all over the country. I don't know, man. We got to get tough. Absolutely. And to so many who have hurt so many people, man, we got to come for them and bring the best of the best for them. We'll get it done. We are going to get this shit done.
I really appreciate your time, Jaeson. You want to tell the audience again where they can find you, where they can check out your stuff and follow you?
You bet. JaesonJones.com. That's JAESON Jones.com. Or you can find me on Newsmax every day reporting what these cartels are doing and what's happening at the border.
Thank you so much for everything, man. I really appreciate it.
Always great to be with you. Listen, keep up the great work, and I mean it, buddy. Hats off to you and the entire team there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Borderland, an Ironclad original. Go ahead and tell your friends about it. share it, text them, do whatever you got to do. But thank you again for listening. Have a good day.
So we're so excited to launch this new piece for the Navy SEAL Foundation. We're titling it I Am. And the reason why we came up with that title is because we wanted to show who the warrior is. If you know the SEAL ethos, it says, I am that warrior. And so we want to show that warrior through the progression of his life and his family. And we want to draw parallels and call us all to action to be that warrior, that man, that woman, that child, that person making a difference in our community, to follow in the footsteps of these men and women that show us how to live in the NSW community. We're filming at Camp Pendleton here in Virginia Beach. It's a big deal because it is a government installation and because it mirrors so many of the things that so many servicemen and women go through.
ORP here, ISO here, containment here, and primary entry point here.
This piece plays out all the aspects that go unseen inside of the life of a team guy, the life of a family member. It takes a journey from buds all the way into full-fledged dad, operator mode, and all the things that happen. It's very powerful at times, very hard-hitting at times. Another really special aspect about this project is it features a Ray Charles song, America the Beautiful. The reason why we selected that song is, like we were talking about, man, what do people not recognize? You know, the repeated explosions, the repeated deployments back and forth, coming home after you just lost your buddy and then seeing your kids that are excited to see you, tucking them in right after that, still training, still learning, you growing, all of these things. And as we were playing out this storyboard in our head, we just kept hearing that song. And we reached out to the Ray Charles Foundation, and for the Navy SEAL Foundation, they made it happen. So it's a very rare song that's being used. It's a really great piece for it to be used on. Everything we do for the foundation, we want it to do justice to the cause and for the community. So we want authenticity, and we want it to make a difference. So we hope you get that from this. We're so excited to launch it.